team. So for the next session, we have Shiva, who is Deputy CTO, and with him being here, I'm always afraid because he takes us to a different planet every time we meet him. We'll start our experience with a new data center which Kyndryl helped build NPCI in both Hyderabad and Chennai. So tell us a little more about it and what's been the experience and the kind of bandwidth it can handle.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Himanshu. Right. So we have been operating on the data centers for more than a decade now, and in the recent times, in the last couple of years, we have built 2 new data centers. So we are first time moving into our own data centers. So one of the major challenge that was on our plate was to how to migrate this mammoth set of services from, or say, applications from our old data centers to the new ones. So that's where exactly Kyndryl came in as our helping partner who has helped us. When it comes to the scale, I think in the month of Jan, UPI alone has handled approximately 8 billion transactions per month. And cumulatively, I think across all the products, we should have touched around 15 to 16 billion transactions. And our data centers, the total capacity, if I'm not wrong, can handle up to 50 to 70 billion transactions a month. So that's the scale at which we can operate.
The fact that it could also be set up in such a small time, what was the reaction from the general board of NPCI?
So I think this is not the first time where we have migrated from one data center to another. The last time when we migrated one was approximately, we did it in 11 to 12 months. But this time we had 2 data centers that we had to migrate. And the timeline that was given to us, considering the current situation, was 6 to 8 months only. Well, frankly speaking, it was next to impossible, but I think we are almost there. We have done it, almost. Our Hyderabad data center is almost there. Chennai has already started, so I think we are doing pretty great on the timeline. So if that were to crunch down to a kind of a metric, approximately 18 months worth project has been crunched into 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
So that's kind of a 3x speed what we have achieved.
Great, thanks. The next query is more from a choice of technology and how the digital payment is redefining these choices. What's the future looking like at NPCI?
So NPCI, on the first note, we are a public good company. We work not for profits. When I say not for profits, obviously it doesn't mean that we are not making profits. We do, but that's again we are putting that back into the development of the ecosystem. Now, one of the main metric that we are always cautious about is per transaction cost. And I think in the morning session, our CEO, Sri Dilip Asbeji, also did mention about it. So I think if we look at the entire platform, right, so that's a broader view of our platform, there are a couple of elements which we cannot eliminate at all, or the cost is always there. There's no way that we can reduce the cost, like let it be the network cost. So we do have a first mile, middle mile, last mile, and first mile being on the bank side, and we have a closed loop MPLS network through which the banks connect to us. The middle mile is the MPLS network. It's a private cloud, or say private network that NPCI runs with the help of ISPs. There's no much cost reduction that we can do, but the only place where we can probably, or we have successfully brought down the cost is in the last mile, right, which is in our own tech stack. So there's one slide here which we are trying to explain. The name, thanks to my team, they named it as TAM. TAM in some language, it means a newly born baby which is healthy.
Wow.
So I don't remember the language, but yes, TAM means that. It came up. So Terraform, Ansible, TARM, R is for
GitLab
R is for our runners, which is our GitLab runners, which is our CI/CD pipeline runners, and M is metal as a service. It's provisioning bare metal service using an orchestrator, or say a provisioner from Canonical. It's open source. So one thing which is actually common for all these 4 elements is open source.
Correct.
So NPCI is a true open source company, or an institution we endorse. well, it's not a surprise to the ecosystem, but UPI itself completely runs on 100% open source methodologies. Let it be our operating systems, let it be our software code, it's entirely open source. And I believe even on our international journeys, that's the exact philosophy what we're adopting to. So if we were to really bring down the per cost, or say per transaction cost, one way is to definitely look at is to switch to open source. But that is a journey. It's a transformation journey which we have already started a couple of years back, and I think we are pretty much there. The other one is how do we actually optimize our software in such a way that it can work on least amount of infrastructure. Lastly, the cost, or say the speed at which we bring the services to market. So precisely if we were to adopt, or say to bring in such kind of things, a cutting edge technology, or say methodologies which are quite out of the box, are very much inevitable. We need to adopt to them. We are on the journey.
Thanks, Shiva. I think that's where we are trying to see how we can co-create some of these asset bases. It was, of course, a journey where we saw private cloud investment a lot, public cloud, and now you have brought up a new concept of function OpenFaaS, where we are trying to say, hey, how can we further optimize it and then bring that infrastructure cost down to bare minimum. So that's great. Would you want to acknowledge the team which actually worked for this? I know you work with a very small core group of team members who you are, you call them a staff team. And
crack team.
The crack team.
Yeah.
And there is always a war room going on in NPCI. So whenever we go, we don't go to a meeting room, we go into a war room where I'm always amazed by the depth of technology intervention. So for me, it is more of a technology company than a payment gateway. And the fact that NPCI, you have been able to do this is really commendable.
Thanks. So yeah, so as I think Himanshu just said, we are not a gigantic team. If you're thinking like, we are talking about servers at the scale of around 1,300, 1,400 bare metal servers moving here and there in a data center with approximately around 17, 18 racks, which are all completely managed by us. The team size in NPCI, it's very small team. We call that as a crack team. The stack that we're looking at is completely open source, but none of them is stitched together, readily available in the market, straightforward. So when we conceptualized this, we required some kind of an execution partner too, because when the team size is so small, we're trying to be as effective as possible. We're trying to crack the solution in such a way that we are able to achieve the desired output in the best timelines which are present in our hand. So, so yeah, of course, kudos to the team who has brought this and who has made this dream come true. And of course, equally, NPCI is thankful to Kyndryl, who became our effective execution partner. So we were looking for really sharp, partners who can quickly pick up something which is out of the box. When we talk about data centers, we don't talk about agility, right? So it's a lot of bare metal servers, a lot of network equipment, a lot of storage, which are all non-agile in nature. Now, we are trying to crack that myth that infrastructure cannot be agile. Sorry, so the methodology we went back to is, if Amazon did it, if Google did it, if Microsoft did it, why not NPCI? Why can't we do that? Because if we have done UPI, maybe we can do a UPI in infrastructure too. So we did conceptualize. We were, as I think he said, it's a team of 8 members only, excluding me. I'm just the talking guy. So the team is the real crux. But they came to me and said, Shiva, how do we achieve this? The scale is humongous. How do we do that? So then I said, okay, all right. The market is open, and NPCI believes in a concept called as co-development as a journey. So instead of taking the traditional path of just finding a partner who has done data center migrations in the past, there are many companies out there which have done it. We chose to do it in a slightly different way. We said, hey, the concept is different. So the way we floated the idea into the market itself was not like, hey, we are going to do a data center migration. No. We said, hey, we are building a new data center. And we're going to bring in our applications which are already present in the old data centers to the new ones, but not migrate them. We're going to do a parallel setup altogether. So the concept itself was entirely different because the timelines were pretty crunched. And as we all know, we are going through a huge global silicon crunch. The availability of hardware was a big challenge on the table. So we needed something really cutting edge. And that's when exactly we went into a completely different kind of an execution plan. I think thanks to Kyndryl, they've been splendid in complementing us through this journey. And I can proudly call that this is one of the major co-development journeys of NPCI on the infrastructure front, in parallel to the fintech innovations that we are trying to do to the market. This is our next edition.
Thanks, Shiva. My last query, and I think this is something which I found very unique with you, is not just that you have set up a data center, you have set up a space for innovation to be groomed. And that's where we, I think, will look up and say, hey, how do we come into that space, co-create even further great stories along with NPCI?
Right. So one advantage of having our own data centers is that we can probably look at the real estate that is available with us to see what we can do. Now, infrastructure is actually a story which is well written in the history. If we go back two decades back, it's all there. It's all there. But is that enough? Is that enough to bring down the costs? Does that give us enough confidence that we are future ready? I'm always paranoid. My team is always paranoid. So my team continuously keeps pushing me, saying like, okay, dude, this is done. What next? What is there new for us? And what are we looking at? So it's quite a challenging space. So, and again, if you look at the regular market also, the freedom to innovate on the infrastructure or say the platform engineering space is very less because it's a very heavy capex driven experiment what we're looking at. So the funds what we can get in the market is very scarce, I'll say. But rather, when it comes to NPCI, thanks to our CEO, thanks to our leaders, who are very, very much, including our board, we are very much inclined and we are looking towards a lot of innovation. So it's kind of our responsibility to kind of create a ground. So we created something called as a baking zone right now in our data center. So we don't actually bake our servers in the real data center, we actually bake them in the baking zone. Once they are ready, then we move them. Well, yeah, the team who is actually moving them back and forth are asking me, hey, in the US we see robots doing this job. Why are we being asked here? I said, okay, don't worry. We have the corridors which are pretty open. So yeah, we are definitely looking on those lines. So if we really need to think that way, we need to have a space where we can experiment. We do have that freedom. Today, yeah, we are running pillar to post to get the timelines done. But I'm sure maybe next year by this time we'll have something more innovative on the platform engineering. And yes, a small update here. Platform engineering is a term that has been now completely adopted across the world. I mean, the adoption rate has increased from last year. So there is a platform con that has started happening since last year. Parallelly, NPCI has also started its platform engineering team. So we are no more being called as the tech infra or say the network engineering or say storage engineers. We all call ourselves, we rebranded ourselves as platform engineering and platform engineers. I think my boss, even his designation is now named as Chief Platform Officer. So yes, NPCI is not only just innovating or marching or say is trying to be ahead of game, but at the same time, not just in the fintech payment space, but even at the technology space. We are a tech company, we are innovating, and we are trying our best to park some of our reserves to ensure that we are delivering something cutting edge and new to the market.
And we'll be glad to be partnering along with you.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I'm open for questions if there are any from the audience.
Any queries for Shiva? There's one gentleman in the back.
There's a gentleman who's looking for.
No?
No, okay.
Okay, if there isn't any, then I think we will end the session. Thank you very much, Shiva.
Thank you. Thanks.